Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Teach Him. This happened a good 15 years ago. I worked for a local computer programming company that made automation software. Our company got bought out by a bigger national company. After the dust settled, corporate decided they were going to send a liaison down to our local office to learn how you do things to be a better bridge between offices. AKA, hey new hires, teach our guy how to do your job so we can let 3 quarters of you go before next quarter. None of us were happy about that, but our new corporate overlords had spoken. A month or so later, here's our liaison fellow, all ready to go. So, show me the interface, he said. Oh, that's when we all stopped, looked at each other and grinned. The reason it took us so long to bring new people up to speed is that we didn't configure new projects. Configure in this corporate speak meant go check off the boxes in an interface until it does what you want. We coded everything by hand. Our main program accepted straight-up VB files. Not even scripts, full-on files, and our new friend here was not a programmer. At all. The guy didn't know a for loop from a bubble sort. So as we were instructed, we started walking him through our code. Here's our X policy. It's the most common one we use, and it's about 1500 lines of code in its base form. Didn't you guys say you had some default policies you worked from? Oh yeah, but they end up being more trouble trying to customize than it is to just write the entire thing from scratch. So up here is where we are declaring our global variables. To our friend's credit, he tried. For days. And every time we thought he was about to figure something out, we intentionally switched him up to an even worse one. We hired requiring a computer science degree. 6 months of on-site gearing up, and another 6 months of shadowing before we would let anyone handle a project on their own. This poor guy got the full year's worth of training in a week. To his credit, on his last day, he flat out told us he was sent down to learn how to replace us. But that he was going to tell them that we were doing a great job, and if anything, our timeframes were surprisingly short given what we were doing. We ran that department for a good 5 years, before the inevitable revolving door of upper management decided to bring in a new, easier to use suite. People are still kvetching about, man, I miss X, it could have done this in half the time. And instead of a 5-man team upkeeping everything, we have multiple departments that still can't manage to fix a broken image link in the new stuff 10 years later. The next story is called They Will Open. My friend was working with a landlord company as a handyman of sorts. He hated his job. He got assigned to visit some tenants to do heat readings in their department, and the tenants had gotten the info beforehand. What do I do if they aren't home or won't open? He asked, only to be met by a snarky, they will, by his boss. Fast forward a few days. He's out knocking doors and doing heat readings. A little over halfway through, one tenant doesn't open the door. He checks his notes. Nobody had been written up as array for that time. So my friend promptly continues with the other apartments, goes back to the door and knocks again. No response. So he sat down on the stairs and waited until his shift ended, and a few hours into overtime. With overtime pay. The boss called and asked where he and the company car was, and he explained the situation. The tenant hasn't yet opened the door. Boss got mad, and even madder when he got informed that my friend was going to clock overtime for today. He informed the boss that he was refused instructions for cases such as the tenant doesn't open the door. So he was waiting for the tenant to do so. The boss tried to fire him, but the union actually backed my buddy, so he got to keep the job. The third story is called Bad Teacher. This took place in the spring of 2008, while I was a senior at my Catholic high school. My AP English teacher periodically asked the students to write a review of the class, what we liked and disliked, what we would change, etc. Now, if you've ever had to do something similar, you'll know that the reviews aren't really meant to be honest, but rather ego-stroking exercises for the vast majority of teachers. My teacher was no exception to this norm. I cannot remember why I was in a bad mood that particular morning. All I recall is my attitude persisted throughout the day until I got into her classroom. Before class officially started, a friend of mine was being made fun of for having highlighter all over his khakis. One had exploded in his pocket, basically covering everything on his left side. Our teacher then began to make fun of him as well, even dispensing with commentary throughout the rest of the class. Needless to say, this only set me off more. Cut to the end of class, where the teacher began passing out the class review sheets. Being in the horrible mood that I was in, I decided to write a fully honest review of the class. I specifically mentioned how I thought it was childish for seniors to make fun of someone for something so benign, and how it was foolish and unprofessional for a teacher to pile on. I did not curse, nor did I use any language that I would deem inappropriate within the review. Predictably, I was called into the vice principal's office the next morning to answer for what I had written. The VP started off by saying that my teacher had read my review and began to cry because I had insulted her. That she wanted me kicked out of class for the remainder of the school year. We had roughly 3 weeks left. Calmly, I asked the VP if my review contained any profanities or any inappropriate language. When the VP admitted the letter did not contain anything inappropriate, I simply said, "Then what am I doing here? You cannot hold me responsible for completing an assignment as prescribed by the teacher." Since I had done nothing wrong, the VP and my teacher could not kick me out for the remainder of the semester. Every afternoon until the end of the year, I walked into that classroom with the largest grin. The last story is called Storeroom Compliance. I have 2 jobs, and this story takes place at my second part-time, which used to be full-time until I got this new job. I was working as a manager and stock controller of a big sports club in my city. This specific club has no owners per se, since it's technically an NPO, but there are multiple levels of management. Directly above me is our general manager, who is supposed to handle the everyday running of the club. However, he has never in his life worked in a bar environment before, so he knows absolutely nothing about how bars function. In the back of our bar, we have a storeroom in which all our excess booze is kept. But the shelves in the storeroom were poorly built and were not strong at all. Thus, we never really fully unpacked the boxes of spirits, since we knew the shelves were not strong enough to hold all of the liquor. One day, our GM goes into the storeroom and sees these boxes. All packed neatly, might I add, since I had gotten the bar staff to tidy the storeroom the night before. He went on a rant about how untidy it is and how unacceptable it is that I allow the staff to keep the area like this. He insists that any unsealed box of liquor is to be fully unpacked and put onto the shelves. I explained the situation to him and asked him to organize new shelves or strengthen the existing ones. Nothing was done, and I left the storeroom as is. A week later, a snotty email was sent to myself and the other managers about the state of the storeroom. We all responded, explaining the issue with the shelves. But again, nothing was done. Yet he kept insisting we unpack all the boxes. Cue Malicious Compliance. I was working one quiet weeknight after he had chewed me out again over the storeroom and was feeling extra petty that day. So I left the bartenders behind the bar and went to work in the storeroom, unpacking every single open box of booze we had and organizing it on these terrible shelves. I must say, it did look very nice and neat. That was until the shelves collapsed before my eyes. Every bottle I had neatly arranged on them came crashing down. My petty showed even more because I left the mess in the storeroom for him to find and deal with the next morning. He demanded an explanation, to which I explained we all told him this would happen, but he still insisted on it being done. We got new shelves that week, and no one got in trouble for the broken bottles. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.